top 5 most convincing cases of reported alien abductions. If you're one of the many believers in aliens and UFOs, then these stories may prove not just fascinating but a bit scary, too. If you don't believe, and truly think that we are all alone in this universe, the accounts of alien abductions are at very least entertaining and, at most, might give you pause. Since the mid-20th century, organizations such as the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, have investigated cases of UFO sightings and alien abductions. Organizations like MUFON are attempting to add credibility to the often maligned field of UFO research. 5. Barney and Betty Hill, 1961. The story of Barney and Betty Hill is quite interesting, not just abduction-wise, but sociologically. After this couple went public with their story, other testimonies of abduction began to swarm the media. Barney and Betty were on the road going home to New Hampshire after a trip to Canada when they saw a bright light in the sky. They stopped their car and, using binoculars, reportedly saw alien-like creatures in the ball of light. After the couple got back in their car, they lost 2 hours of their lives and ended up 35 miles away from where they last remembered being. Betty's dress was ripped and Barney's shoes were scuffed, and their watches were stopped at the time when they saw the light. The couple became famous for their experience, and numerous news segments and documentaries scrambled to recount the odd story. 4. A Lagos Waterway Abduction, 1976. Probably one of the more famous abduction stories of the bunch, the Lagos Waterway Abduction involved 4 men, brothers Jim and Jack Weiner, and Chuck Rack and Charlie Foltz. The brothers knew the other men from art school, and the 4 had set out for a leisurely fishing trip. After a day of unsuccessful fishing with little food to spare, the group decided to take their canoe and try some night fishing, and left a large campfire to help them find their way back. While fishing that night, the group noticed a glowing orb over the trees moving about and changing colors. Then the orb came to the canoe and, so they say, engulfed the entire group. The next thing the men remember is being at the campground, their fire burnt down to ashes. The men later began to independently experience nightmares of strange beings examining them and boarding a spaceship. They went through hypnosis and all 4 men had consistent experiences concerning being medically examined while the others helplessly watched. Because the 4 men were also artists, they were able to depict their experiences on paper with very disturbing results. The 4 men's stories were featured on Unsolved Mysteries and they appeared on national news. 3. John Salter Jr., 1988. This story is probably one of the few that actually has a very positive ending. John Salter Jr. and his son John III appeared to have lost about an hour of time as they were traveling on the highway, after suddenly finding out that they were driving in the opposite direction and were an hour later than they believed. With no memory of the missing hour, the men continued with their journey until they saw an apparent UFO in the air. The sight of the UFO jogged their memory. They remembered seeing a group of what they thought to be children, as well as a taller half-human, half-alien creature. The men say they were not afraid of the aliens, and instead felt very protected and bonded with the aliens. The 2 men were then guided to a room where they had a thorough medical examination and procedure. After all was said and done, John Jr. and John III reported an overall improvement in their health. The most unusual and convincing aspect of this story? John Jr.'s permanent forehead scar almost completely disappeared after the incident. 2. Kelly Cahill, 1993. Australian Kelly Cahill claims to have experienced an alien abduction as she and her family were driving home. She saw a UFO-like craft in the sky with a diameter of about 150 feet, as well as a blinding light. After the initial panic, and upon noticing a second car, she and her husband simply continued their drive home with their 3 children. Upon returning home, Kelly realized that they were missing a good chunk of time and remarked upon an odd triangular mark by her navel. Kelly would consequently be hospitalized a couple of times, once for a uterine infection and again for severe stomach pain. As time progressed, Kelly began to remember other things such as humiliating medical procedures, frightening creatures, and mind control. And what's extra strange about this report? The family in that second car reported having an identical experience as the kills but didn't want to be publicly named for fear of scrutiny. 1. Clayton and Donna Lee, 2005. Houston native Clayton Lee claims that he has been abducted by aliens numerous times, with experiences beginning during his childhood. When he married his wife Donna, she too became a victim of these abductions. Donna even believes that the aliens took a fetus from her body. When their local news station covered them, a hypnotist was brought in to jog the couple's memories with unsettling results. Recalled memories included Clayton screaming, "Stop touching me." The couple's story caught the attention of Harvard psychiatrist Susan Clancy, who put out a call to the public to try to collect stories that were similar to Clayton and Donna's experiences. She was overwhelmed with responses. Clayton and Donna were also interviewed on The Bill O'Reilly Show, and have been held up as a modern example of, variously, paranoia and psychosis, or enormously convincing examples of alien abduction. We'll leave it to you to decide.